weirdos. And I'm like, yeah, they follow me everywhere, man. They're just like shadows.
Well, you're not going to get them tonight because, like I said, I don't do phone calls. I hate phone calls.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, here I'm like. It's Tuesday, January 8th, Wednesday, January 9th, if you're on the East Coast or across the pond. And this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. Hope you had a great day and night. I am your host, Dave Scott, broadcasting to you live from the Great White North, on top of the mountains of central British Columbia, right here at SOR headquarters. We welcome you nightly on the SOR Radio Network, Deep Talk Radio, Rev Radio. Good to have you with us. If you want to take a listen to our archives, we have them free for you at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. You can rock out to Bumblefoot. Right now, shop at our brand new Spaced Out Radio store, read up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire, and much more. Tonight's show is brought to you by the YouTube channel Insuho. Sebastian Martin brings high-quality messages to the masses. Head to our website, click on the Insuho banner, and subscribe today. Tonight we get deep into Bob Lazar, where a film that came out last month, put out by independent investigative filmmaker Jeremy Corbell, has shot through the ranks. Jeremy went deep into Bob Lazar's story that began going 30 years ago when he came out as a major whistleblower, making claims that he had worked on and back-engineered alien spacecraft at S4, a hidden base on the side of a mountain inside Area 51. It's a story that Lazar regrets. He's been quoted as saying he wouldn't do it again, as he'd still love to be working on what he did, on the toys with nicknames like the sports model. But hindsight is 2020, and for 3 decades, Bob has lived through a life of criticism, which Jeremy will explain tonight. Then at the bottom of hour number 3, Olaf Phillips is back from Paranoia Magazine for another edition of the SOR Newswire. Jeremy Corbell, it's been a couple of years since we've had you on Spaced Out Radio, but it's always a pleasure to have you back. How are you?
Good, Dave. Thanks for having me on.
I'm proud to have you on, my friend. Proud to have you on. Hey, when we talked last, you had just released Patient 17. You were working on the Skinwalkers. How did you get involved with the Bob Lazar story? Were you as intrigued with it as I was as a kid growing up and learning about this field?
Yeah, man, you make a good point. Last we talked, I had just had my first big movie success, where I had my film Patient 17 about an alleged alien implant removal picked up by Netflix. And so this is like the movie that really kind of broke me into getting these out through the mass media to a much larger audience. However, the film I always wanted to make is the film on Bob Lazar. But as we all know, he's very ticklish about going on camera. And for 30 years, George Knapp was the only person that was able to get him to talk from time to time. But yes, finally, my curiosity was satisfied, and I got to make my dream movie on the man we know as Bob Lazar.
Why go after him? Why was this something that it was an itch you needed to scratch?
Because, man, we all got curious about the UFO world in some way because of Bob Lazar. He's the reason we know about Area 51. He's the reason it's a household name. It was very obscure before then. So he was always kind of this, the Elvis of ufology, or the Bigfoot, kind of elusive. And he was really the person that we all wanted to know, and still many of us want to know. Is he worthy of our trust? Because what he said was that he was back engineering 9 alien spacecraft for the U.S. military in 1989. If that statement is true, it's absolutely game-changing. So I, like you, wanted to know, is that true? And the only way to get closer to that is to talk with the man himself and make a documentary about it. And that's exactly what I did.
You know, for so long, I mean, this is a 29 and a half year story that's been going on that just will not go away. You've brought new light to it, but in that 29 and a half years previous to your film, why do you think this was a story that just would not go away? It was still as hot and criticized today as it was back then in the pre-internet days.
Yeah, because, really, you cannot just dismiss Bob Lazar. People try. They try to just dismiss him. Yet the problem is you can dismiss one thing or two things about Bob Lazar, but ultimately the evidence starts to outweigh that he's telling the truth than that he would be a liar. And so this is very frustrating to people. I can see them try to back engineer reality to fit their ideas. I see this all the time with the Lazar case, and I don't see this with all cases. So it's really like an interesting phenomenon that surrounds the Bob Lazar story. So I think it hasn't gone away because it is difficult to dismiss. People have tried. Trust me, the people make a living trying. And that's kind of what's interesting about it. And also just Bob himself, you get to know him a little bit through my film. But the issue with looking at Bob Lazar is you get the sense he's telling the truth exactly as he knows it. And that's extremely frustrating when it goes against all of your preconceived ideas about what's possible.
Now, when you look at everything in regards to Bob, I mean, he's lived a pretty silent life. There was no books, no other films, no touring, doing conferences or anything like that. He hated the spotlight of this story. I mean, that shows to me a real sign of regret. Other people may disagree, but that's the way I look at it. Jeremy, why you? Why did he agree to this with you?
Well, yeah, first of all, people disagree with the idea that, Bob has done nothing good for him or he hasn't profited off of it. Well, they can't disagree. That's the truth. If they don't know it, they're ignorant. And so that's the issue is people are ignorant because it's hard to get to know someone like Bob who does push away from the limelight. But that is, in fact, the truth. So why me, right? Well, I again, my joke is it's my charming personality, man. I don't know why. I mean, I was persistent. But, over time, I was gentle. Over the years, Bob and I became friends more than anything, or we were becoming friends before the movie. And I said, look, I'm here. I'm fascinated in your story. I would like to look into it. And if you don't do this with me, then the way people have eviscerated and disemboweled your story, the way that they've twisted it and lied and fabricated and fictionalized and put fantasy in and inserted their own beliefs, that is going to remain in the history books. That's it, Bob. That's it. It doesn't matter what you said in 1989 or you popped your head up once in a while. If you don't throw down, that's going down in history. And if you'd like to remedy that to some degree, then let's show people who you are. Let's tell your story clearly. And there's new evidence. There's new information in my movie, breaking information that people need to simply watch to understand. And he appreciated that. He appreciated I was on the hunt, and he appreciated I was genuine and that I would look at it and, really give it a run. And I did.
And here I thought it was just about the high quality beard that you have, my friend.
I don't know.
We like a good beard around here. We always make mention of it, whether it's you or anybody else, our listeners. So, that could have been very well it. But I digress. Nonetheless, in regards to this, when he agreed, what's going through your mind at this time? I mean, as a filmmaker, you got to be pumping your fist saying, yes, I got the dream. I got what I wanted. But on a second note, there's always that sense of panic that kind of kicks in with, like, this is the story. I cannot screw up. How much pressure did you put on yourself for that?
Oh, an enormous amount of pressure. I knew in making this film that I wouldn't be making a lot of friends. I knew that in making this film the way I knew it had to be made, which, by the way, nobody else could make. So everybody could talk garbage about, my film or whatever they want. They can argue it. But you know what? They didn't make the movie. They didn't move the ball forward. So, look, for me, I panicked. I panicked for, a year and a half straight. Yeah, man, I wanted to get this movie right. I wanted to push buttons. I wanted to get deep in there. I wanted to show people, a different side to Bob. I wanted to reveal things. And again, I achieved all of that. But it wasn't as clear cut as you just stated. It's actually really funny, man. Bob is so allergic to interviews and to the whole idea. I mean, it took years for him to say, come on over. Okay, I'll let you make a movie, because he understood by letting me in his life, it was full access. I mean, phone numbers, family, everybody that had been off limits before. It was boxes, everything in his house. I mean, videotapes, anything I want, his cell phone, anything I want, right, to look into it. And he knew that. So when he asked me, or said, come on over, it was funny, man. I flew to Michigan and I literally didn't know if I was making a movie or not. So I brought all my camera equipment and I show up at his house and I got all these bags. I am staying for a week, but it wasn't abundantly clear that it was 100% we're doing this, because it was a big deal for him to open his life up to me, and I didn't want to be presumptuous. So at that first night, we're sitting in his living room. I said, so Bob, am I here to make the movie? Am I here to make the movie I want, my movie? And he says, well, yeah, like, that's why you're here. Okay. He goes, I only have one thing, one restriction. And I said, well, what is it? And he says, don't lie, don't fabricate to sensationalize, just tell it like it is. Don't make anything up. And I'm like, that's the easiest thing anybody could ever tell me to do in making a film, because I really believe truth is stranger than fiction. I mean, there's no reason to make up anything. This topic is so sensational as it was. And my only restriction for him was, you got to just completely open the door, 100%. And he did.
Previous to this, in being an armchair watcher of this entire story since 1989, Jeremy, much like the most of us have.
Right.
Were you a believer in his story going in? Did you have some reservations, or did you just, think that, like one of the critics out there, or many of the critics out there, that you just felt that, maybe there was some BS to this UFO scam?
Yeah. So what was so funny is I've gone through so many different waves of this throughout my life. So when I first heard the story, I was 13 years old. It was 1989. And I can tell you, I wanted it to be true. It completely flipped my script. The idea of a reactionary propulsion system and then comparing that to, a field propulsion system, which is what he described. Instead of pushing something out the back, you're falling into space by distorting gravity ahead of you. So, which is, space-time. So I wanted it to be true. But then over the years, as I started documenting, and I filmed with John Lear for 7 years, I got to know George Knapp. There was always these moments where I was trying to catch everybody in a lie. I was trying to catch them conspiring to tell this phony story. I mean, that's always on the tip of your tongue. Like there's that feeling, that feeling like, oh, you're going to catch somebody, But over the years, and I can't expect anybody else to understand this, but over the years of being so close to this story and knowing every single person involved and interviewing and speaking with and getting dinner with and hanging out with these people involved, I came to understand. It was like this aha moment. Holy cow, this really happened. These guys are all telling it like they remember it. And that was this moment that the, kind of hair stands up on your arms. And I've had a few of those. But when I got the assignment to make this film, when it was a green light and it was like, go, I completely reassessed it. I was like, okay, let me look at this completely new. I want to show people who Bob is, because that's a big part of the story. But I'm not going to pull punches, and I'm going to ask questions. Now, not everything I asked or people I interviewed would go on camera or were in camera for that hour-and-a-half movie. You have to understand that too. But I will tell you that after the movie, I no longer have the luxury of disbelief. Bob Lazar is telling you the truth, whether you can handle that or not.
I've been on record on this show. And so it's not like, a lot of people may say that I'm, trying to kiss ass to you or anything like that, because I'm not that type of guy. But I have gone on record on this show that I believe Bob. I think there are some questions that maybe you can fill us in on, since Bob isn't with us tonight, unfortunately. But nonetheless, I find that his story in a lot of aspects is very credible. I look at it from a different point of view, and we'll get into that a little bit later in the show when we start talking about George Knapp's involvement. But in regards to the criticism that is out there is a lot of spite, a lot of anger. A lot of people think there is this UFO cabal out there that is controlling the narrative and buying off people. You've heard it all. What makes that not true, what people feel that they have discovered about this entire story?
Look, I'll be the first to not only admit, but bring forward that there are issues with the Bob Lazar story that was reported in the first news report that George Knapp ever did on Bob Lazar. You know, they talked about his education and how they can't prove it. There are a number of things that detractors will bring up to try to minimize the entirety of Bob Lazar's story and experience. Now, it's one thing to say, I don't believe somebody or I do believe somebody. That's freedom of choice, man. You only have the information that's presented to you at that time. And your beliefs can change. They can change like changing clothing. It just depends on what information you're exposed to. But you cannot dismiss the Bob Lazar story on the BS that's being propagated by the detractors right now. The most ridiculous things. And we'll get into those things tonight. If we need to, we'll go point by point on them. And again, I'm not sitting here trying to convince you that Bob Lazar is telling you the truth. What I'm trying to do is convince you to not look at junk data and junk information and base your opinion on that, because then you're the fool. Then you're the absolute fool. So the idea that I'm trying to propagate here is look at the information and get rid of the junk data, and then look at the Bob Lazar story and try to understand its meaning.
Before we get too much into the movie and everything that went on, what were some of the questions that you had in your head that going into this that you wanted answers? And did you get those answers for them?
Oh my gosh. That's such a huge. I mean, I have a chalkboard wall that's about 20 feet by 15 feet that has, hundreds and hundreds of questions on it. So I can't even narrow it down. But yeah, I can tell you on the grand scale, every single question I had, every question you have in my archive of film footage with Bob Lazar over the last couple years, it is answered. It is answered multiple times. So I believe my archive is going to be kind of feeding people this information over time. Absolutely. But yeah, man, every single question. Now, some specifics. I mean, everything by, how he actually got to work, how he got the job, every little specific about what it was like working at S4 and flying in and then driving in on a bus to, what was his personal life like when he was being raided by the FBI? What was it like when he was taken to court because he was said for pandering because he was involved with a brothel? What was it like being taken to court and then having Congressman Bill Bray try to get your records from Area 51 and then them telling him and the judge that they didn't have a need to know about Bob Lazar? I mean, there's so many wild things, and I had so many questions, and Bob answered all of them that he could.
Do you feel for him? You made this personal connection with him. Do you feel sorry for him? Do you feel happy for him because he was able to at least get some sort of life in the second part of his life since this event? Or how do you feel afterwards in regards to the person, Bob Lazar?
Yeah, I mean, look, you hate to see people that you care about or people that have become friends suffer. And by the time I make a documentary on somebody, I don't make documentaries on idiots. I don't make documentaries on people that aren't good people. So yeah, as a person, I do care for Bob. I think he's but nobody has to like worry about Bob. Bob is a strong individual. He's a powerful individual. There's nobody has to like worry about Bob. Yeah, he went through the ringer. He absolutely did. But remember, he came forward and told his story, and he wasn't supposed to tell that story. He did it because he was fearing for his life. Whether you believe it or not, it's true. So yeah, I think he had a rough run of it. But, man, no, I don't think Bob feels sorry for himself, and I don't think anybody should. I think, Bob's a kick-ass scientist and he's got a good life. And I'm happy for him that there's some vindication, through this movie, especially to people that had never heard the raw story, that had, kind of grown up when it was getting twisted by everybody intentionally. So, yeah, no, I think it's a new day. I think it's a new era, and I'm glad to have been able to tell this story so intimately about a guy that I think is an interesting guy.
We got about 2.5 minutes before we got to go to break here at the bottom of the hour, Jeremy. In regards to the criticism you took in the field through this, I realize you have to have a very strong backbone if you're going to put yourself out in the public. I have to do it on a nightly basis. Other show hosts have to do it. You have to do it. Has this one been tough for you? Has this one been a little bit more animated, shall we say?
Honestly, I feel sorry for the idiots that, come at the story with such a closed mind and they're so personally violent about it. They can attack me all they want. No, I mean, look, all my films are kind of – this is controversial territory. It's a pioneering territory. There's you can't just Google something and be satisfied. This information is going to inspire debate. But yeah, it's sad to see individuals, especially with, for sure, the Bob Lazar story, but also Hunt for the Skinwalker, my last film. People are like emotionally invested in like proving their point rather than just looking at the evidence and the data and the information and having a normal, lively, but normal debate. So personally, no, it doesn't bother me. But yeah, people speak up, I'm going to slap their face now. I mean, they got to have something to say or stop propagating BS because I'm going to slap you down. Yeah.
You have to have that attitude, and whether or not the public likes to hear it, or I like to hear it or not, or even if you like to say it or not, I mean, you have to have that attitude because there's a difference between criticizing Bob Lazar, but there's another difference in criticizing the hard work and passion and the lifestyle that you put into the movie. That's two separate things.
Oh, yeah, I wasn't even thinking about that. Oh, yeah, people say, the weirdest stuff, but, how can you take it personally? They don't know me. They don't know what I've done, how hard I've worked to get this information out to people, and the way in which I did it with integrity. So, honestly, the things people say, yeah, it doesn't bother me that much, but I'm kind of saying, and I'm just telling you straight up, yeah, I'm not going to sit back and let people talk BS. I'm going to nail them on it.
Jeremy, I'm going to get you to hold on because we're going to go to break here in about 30 seconds, and I really appreciate you taking the time here to join us. You will be with us until 11:30 Pacific, 2:30 Eastern, and we are going to get into it. So I know the audience has in the chat rooms a bunch of questions. We will get to your questions in hour number 2. I will try to get them all in there because I know you guys out there have a lot of questions for Jeremy in regards to this story. We're going to hit it all. We are going to hit it all as much as we can, and Jeremy's going to answer them the best that he can because that's what he's here to do. We're talking Bob Lazar tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Do you believe the story? Do you not? It's all up to you. We're just providing the facts here on the Mighty SOR. Second half hour of the show coming up right after this.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio Live with Dave Scott on the Deep Talk Radio Network.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
You know, it's hard being the bad man of ufology, but that's just the way that I like it. This is Chris George Zuger, and I'll be hanging out with Dave Scott and SOR scientist Chris Cogswell for Reality Paranormal, the second Wednesday of every month. And our job is to break it down and come to conclusions as to what is really going on in the supernatural world. I'd love for you to join us right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want, when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
We're bringing scientific thought to the paranormal. Hi there, this is Spaced Out Radio scientist Chris Cogswell. Join me, Chris Zuger, and Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month, where we break down the who from the woo when it comes to everything paranormal. We'll investigate and try to bring sensible answers to those straight and sometimes outlandish questions people have. Hey, not everything has an answer, but we'll do our best. Listen in to Reality Paranormal only on Spaced Out Radio.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thaw, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Did you know Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi there, this is Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm here to take you on a paranormal journey each Saturday and Sunday night. Why change the station when you have it all right here? Together, we'll hang out and share some strange and scary stories. And don't forget, we have Psychic Sundays as well, so come tune in Spaced Out Weekend. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com, where we own the night.
Hi there, this is Geraldine Orozco from San Francisco's Bay Area Meditation. I invite you to join me the first Tuesday of every month with Dave Scott for Spaced Out Radio's The Spiritual You. In this fast-paced world we live in, it's time for you to take some time for you. We'll cover every possible subject from powerful meditation to healing techniques to your own intuition and spirituality. So come join us for The Spiritual You.
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Welcome back to the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for being with us, including everybody listening over a wave gap tonight. Appreciate that. Good to have you with us for the first time. We're talking Bob Lazar tonight. Jeremy Corbell has a new documentary out. If you haven't seen it, I highly suggest you do. You want to check it on out. Jeremy, welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks so much.
Where can people, right off the bat, if they haven't seen the film, where can they get it right now?
Yeah, this film is doing so well. It's incredible. So if you go to iTunes, you can see it right in the documentaries. We're in the top 5 still, and we're going to get back up to number 1. It's amazing. So iTunes, and then of course you can see it on Amazon, or you can see it on Vimeo, or those kinds of things. All pay-per-view.
When you decided to do this, and obviously it's been a big emotional roller coaster after everything is done, you get it edited, you get it out, the public is going absolutely nuts for this on both sides, the believers, the non-believers, and here you are now, everything is out. Have you had time to breathe yet and just kind of sit back and say, holy crap, what did I get myself into?
No, but you're right. It's a riot, man. I mean, I go right from the anxiety of making this film, and it was not smooth sailing. I mean, the moment I had the final cut locked, I show it to Bob, and he just goes ghost sheet white, and feels nauseous, and just, I probably think he hated the movie when he first saw it, and it was an emotional roller coaster. I had to explain to him, it just brought up so many emotions he had repressed and pushed away, and he didn't want to deal with this again. And it was, and I think it just turned his life upside down again. And he was worried that, what's the point in telling people the truth again? They just try to bash me. He can't prove everything that he said and that whole thing. But bottom line, look, it drives people crazy that Bob doesn't defend himself. They say he's lying because he doesn't defend himself, or he's profiteering, which is the farthest from the truth. And I look at everybody else talk at UFO conferences who don't even have movies about them, and they are profiteering. So, it's amazing, man. He's just telling a story. And, just asking you to hear the story if you want to. He doesn't really care if you believe him. He's just telling you a story. But, the problem is most people just go like an inch deep, and then that's it. They don't really look into the details of the story. But from my point of view, Dave, because, look, I achieved my goals. I wanted to learn the truth about the Bob Lazar story. I wanted to learn the truth about UFOs from the Bob Lazar story. I feel that I did. Second thing is I wanted to uplift the visual medium of documentary filmmaking when it relates to this complex subject of UFOs. I wanted to elevate it on all levels, visually, artistically, stylistically. That's why I have, the Oscar-nominated Mickey Rourke. That's why he's narrating the film. That's why I have incredible, beautiful graphics for the film, all because I wanted to uplift the medium, to tell, as a storyteller, to show this story to the world. So, man, massive success. I mean, everybody should just rent the movie, watch the movie, and then debate about it.
Jeremy, every time you talk about Bob Lazar, it is so tightly sewn into George Knapp and his career in regards to this. You have on the promo feature a famous quote of George basically saying, you can ask him, but I highly doubt he'll do it, or I don't think he'll do it. How much time, I should ask, did you sit with George Knapp in picking his brain about this story? Because you do use film from those original interviews. You had to get permission from KLAS in Las Vegas to do this. How foregoing were they in helping you out?
Well, actually, so really, most of this was just fair use stuff that was on the airwaves, but also. A lot of what George did was on his own time and on his own dime, right, to investigate the Bob Lazar story. So, look, to answer your question, yeah, George, I am lucky, man. He's my mentor in journalism. He shows me right from wrong, left to right. He has really guided me with these stories. So what you see in the film, when we're in his place with the pool, and you could see he's almost taunting me. He's like, yeah, good luck with that. He goes, you got to tell the Bob Lazar story, but you got to be like the luckiest guy in the world if you get Bob to talk with you. And you see him like challenge me in the movie. So this movie is very much from my perspective. I'm sitting there like, well, I'd love to tell Bob's story, but that was filmed in 2012. That scene in my movie was filmed in 2012. So I was already kind of like trying to get this film together when I was talking with George. And yeah, you see him just totally taunt me there, and it's very funny. But let's remember, George Knapp is the guy that broke the Area 51 story. He broke the Bob Lazar story. And he did that in a way to a detriment to his career. I mean, nobody was breaking stories on, these huge news stations about UFOs like what happened with George. So the fact that he was willing to kind of give me the information that he had to let me access the archived videotapes, the original uncut videotapes. So you will see some of the vintage footage in the movie, but unlike the debunkers and unlike the naysayers say, no, you watch my film, do a ratio. Do a ratio of my film. How much is new footage and how much is vintage footage? And you'll see that it's an incredible amount of new footage in the film. Majority of it, much more than the majority of it, more than half is new footage. But being able to get those tapes, those uncut interviews with Bob Lazar from George Knapp, who championed this story alone for 25 years, that was powerful, man. That was cool because you can compare and contrast Bob's answers from then until now, almost 30 years later. So yeah, I really, kind of begged George to give me access to everything that I could, use of his.
The reason why I believe the Bob Lazar story, and not that it's important or anything, but I'm going to throw this out there, is because of George Knapp. Now, there are a lot of people who believe that George is, bought because he has a lot of sources, a lot of big names in the field of ufology. But in my opinion, as working in a newsroom, that comes with credibility, a healthy beard as well, as George has, as well as stability in telling and keeping your sources clear. But this is what I do know, Jeremy. When I worked 10 years in a newsroom, if you brought up a UFO story to your news editor or your program director, you got laughed at. Yeah. You got laughed at big time, and then it was followed by a no. What I don't buy of George's story is the fact when he says, we ran with it. We felt we had something real here, and we ran with it. I want to know what those sources are. He'll never tell. I'm never going to ask. Well, maybe if I ever have a chance to have a couple beers with him, that I would ask that question. I would expect, and I can't tell you that. And I would respect that because that's kind of journalism code. Everything has a code. But the way I look at it is George would not put his career, he was 8 years in at the time at KLAS. He had to have some sort of concrete proof that Bob worked there before he could convince his program director and or news editor to allow him to run that story, because that's the type of story that can ruin a journalist's credibility for life. You're going to be, working in some hick town somewhere in the middle of the United States that has a listenership of maybe 500. That's the type of decision this could make. And yet, here he is still 31 years later at the same station, an investigative journalist and very prominent in the field of ufology, and probably the biggest name there is in this field for credibility. What's your thoughts?
George certainly did not just believe Bob Lazar. Not at all. And people try to dismiss this all the time. It's so funny to me. Get a life. I mean, okay, you think George Knapp just said, oh, sounds like a cool story. From the very beginning, he was challenging everything. So look, there's Ned Day, who is George Knapp's mentor at the time. Ned Day, he had, he was kind of the big boss. And, George, he overhears this story about UFOs being told to him. And Ned Day didn't want anything to do with it. He said, if it was true at Area 51, I would know about it. I mean, wow, wasn't true. It wasn't true that he would know about it, apparently, because George picks up the story, starts looking into it, finds out there is credibility. Here are some of the things that George Knapp did to find out if Bob Lazar was telling the truth. Remember, at the very beginning, Los Alamos denied ever having had a Bob Lazar work even through a subcontractor at Los Alamos. Turns out he worked for many years there at the Maison Particle Facility or Particle Accelerator. And yeah, absolutely, that was confirmed. George found his name in the phone book. He found the subcontractor that he got, that he got hired by, which, by the way, you have to put in more paperwork for a subcontractor because you're not getting hired just by the lab. It's somebody who has to represent to the lab. So it's like all these funny things, man. So Bob worked there. Great. George also put Bob in front of multiple individuals with Bob Stoddall, by the way, another boss and mentor of George's, who hardcore journalist, right? This guy put Bob in front of employees of Area 51. They had sources, and they were checking him on everything. Like, what does it look like when you land? Really mundane things, right? What is the bar name at Area 51? What does it look like, when you're driving out from there? And Bob passed with flying colors. Everybody that was put in front of Bob Lazar believed Bob Lazar had been there, right? Kind of hard to make that stuff up. So anyway, that happened. And then additionally, let's not forget, George did put Bob in front of a number of polygraph tests. And that I always found very fascinating. All that proves is Bob Lazar believes that he's telling the truth. But that's something. That's something powerful, right? So there's tons of stuff that George has experienced. And if he's experienced a lot more than me, but I got to tell you, I have people that I've talked with regarding this case who were in position to know, and they will not go on camera. They will not go on record. And that, for me, is some of the most powerful testimony. People that have confirmed elements of Bob Lazar's story to me personally that don't want the limelight, that won't go on camera for a number of reasons, because some of them are still employed by the United States government. So as a journalist like George is, and as a filmmaker like me, that's difficult because you want to show everybody everything. But the reality is you just can't.
You can't. You have to protect your sources. And I understand that as a journalist. The public, for the most part, does not, because they want answers. They deserve answers. This is their taxpayers' dollars that are at work at some unknown facility that if their own citizenry crossed that line, they could be shot and killed.
I understand that, but some of the public acts like little babies, and then other people say, okay, well, I'm going to look into this myself. And those are the people I respect. So within your audience, the people that I respect are people that look at this story and try to move the ball further by uncovering information, not standing there with their hand out saying, Daddy, give me a meal, right? Oh, just tell me everything. How can you not tell me everything? That is so immature, and that's ridiculous. So the good audience you have, the majority of the audience, people say, oh, thank you for the hard work you've done, and you've inspired me to do my own in this field. That's what I hope people get from this, is they start looking into these things for themselves.
When you started getting this information and you started, putting it all together for this film, you're dealing with George, you're dealing with Bob, did anything seem out of sorts? Did anything just kind of catch you off guard saying this is not adding up right?
I tried this, like there would be things that I would pick on him, right? Like Bob kept telling me about this hand scanner, and I was like, oh yeah, that sounds crazy, Bob. I was like looking everywhere for this. I talked to employees of Area 51 And nobody would tell me about this hand scanner. I mean, it was like Bob said himself, people think he's lying or he's joking, but he swore it's true. He swore it's true. And again, I mean, I have sources of people who worked for, 6 to 10 years at a time at Area 51, some of the most elite pilots of fighter planes and stealth planes that you'd ever talk with. Like, these are some of my sources, by the way, some of whom have gone on record with me, and I will be releasing those interviews. So I'm going to back that up. But I'm just saying, I talk with people like this all the time, trying to get, more information, and this hand scanner thing really bothered me. So I was like, oh, this sounds totally like a I don't know, a Star Trek episode. And then right before I'm finalizing my cut of the film, a fellow journalist, a friend of ours, or somebody who's got a cool website, he came up with these images of these hand scanners. And I showed it to Bob, and he almost flipped himself. He thought he would never see those images again. And it turns out these bone scanners, there was like biometric scanners, the beginning of biometrics, they were used during that time period at Area 52, Tonopah Test Range, where they did all the stealth work, and other locations on the base. Finally, everything Bob had been saying, all of a sudden we get to see these actual hand scanners, these bizarre machines that were only used for a very small amount of time. So things like that, I thought, oh, I got him on this. This is crazy. This isn't true. But it ended up being true.
I want to get back to George Knapp here for a second, because I forgot to ask you this. In regards to his sources, you had mentioned that he had, brought in other members from Area 51 whom he had known, and they worked the sources and they did the polygraphs, and everything seemed to pan out. In my estimation, if you look at the timeline that I've looked at exclusively and extensively, I should say, in regards to this, there seems to be a real tie-in between the closeness of George Knapp and Bob Bigelow, George Knapp, Harry Reid. There's a little triangle there. In my estimation, I think it's one of those guys that really tipped George off to that. Any information in regards to one of those two giving him the thumbs up that Bob is real? Yeah, actually, it was quite the opposite. Neither of those people knew about Bob. Neither of them knew about what was going on out there. I'm sorry. It's funny. We've got these cool theories, and I don't mean to shatter it, but I'm just going to shatter it with truth, right? Which is that, sure.
Those two guys had nothing to do with it. Harry Reid was the first person outside of the newsroom. Senator Harry Reid was the first person outside of George's newsroom that George told about Bob Lazar and Bob's story. Now, Harry Reid, George likes to say he didn't kick me out of the limo when George was telling him the story. So they kind of bonded over this. They had a friendship. Harry's like, really? Tell me more. And for decades, 30 years, George and Harry would continue this conversation. Now we happen to know that Harry Reid championed this $22 million for a program called AWSAP, Advanced Aerospace Weapon Systems Application Program. And that $22 million, they said, was used for ATIP, Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, but it wasn't, right? That's the program Lou Elizondo was ahead of the UFO identification program for the United States military through the Pentagon, right? Now, it turns out that $22 million was not used for ATIP. It was used, for AWSAP, and that Skinwalker Ranch and Bass were funded through that $22 million, and that all of that was created by Harry Reid, that he championed it. But remember, who's the one that introduced Harry Reid to all of this? It was George Knapp in 1989 about Bob Lazar. So Harry Reid has done a lot of things behind the scenes in order to get information about UFOs out, to get the government studying it, to get that information going. But no, Harry Reid did not confirm anything about Bob Lazar to George at that time, at the beginning. And neither did Bob Bigelow. Bob Bigelow was not involved at that time in the way that he is now or was in the last 10 years.
Yeah, but Bigelow and Lazar, shortly after that, started a company looking for Element 115.
Kind of, yeah. People like debunkers, like to use this. Oh, and they it's so funny. They somehow come up with the exact dollar amount that was spent on that, which is totally absurd. They have no idea, but people just make up facts and try to do that. So here's the skinny on that. So yeah. There was a time when Bob Bigelow was interested in studying, and picking Lazar's brain and getting him to kind of work on his scientific projects based upon what he learned when he was working in the government program. However, to be honest, Bob never trusted Bigelow enough to show him the element 115 that he did get out of Los Alamos. He didn't trust him enough to show him. So I don't think their business relationship went very far, because I don't think Bigelow was getting what Bigelow wanted to get from that relationship. But, gosh, the rumors are ridiculous. It was a short amount of time right after that Bigelow wanted to kind of invest in Bob's brain, I think. And, it just didn't work out. But the rumor mill is ridiculous on that.
True, but that's what people only have to go on. Timelines and potential.
Right. No, that's true. You make a good point, and I'm not saying that, but don't come up with a firm opinion on limited facts. I mean, they're throwing in fake numbers. Somebody said last week like $2 million was spent on that program. Oh my God, how could you possibly come up with that number? You have no idea. That's all I'm saying.
No, I understand that. But I mean, everywhere you turn in ufology, and we only got about a minute left before we're going to take our break at the top of the hour, but everywhere you turn in ufology the last 30 plus years, there's Bob Bigelow.
Well, okay, no, that's true. And I'm not denying his involvement in the UFO topic. I'm denying him affirming or confirming Bob Lazar to George Knapp. He was never in a position to know about Bob Lazar to confirm him to George Knapp. We can talk about Bigelow and his fingers in the UFO topic for the last 30 years, which I think is fascinating. We should talk about that. That's different.
Oh, that's a show all on its own, my friend. That's a show all there. You know what? There's your next movie. Somebody find out what the hell Bob Bigelow is all about in this.
Yeah, I've never told anybody this. The first movie I ever sent out to make was called Finding Bigelow.
That would be fantastic. I would pay money for that. Maybe I would pay money for that.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a story that needs to be told. There's
you heard
way
it here
too much,
first.
There's way too much information there, my friend. Too much juice, as I like to call it, without getting into it. There's way too much juice with Mr. Bigelow, especially after his 60 Minutes interview last year. Jeremy, you hold on. We're going to go to a break here. We'll be back talking UFOs, Bob Bigelow, Bob Lazar, George Knapp with Jeremy Corbell right after this on Spaced Out Radio.
Every night on Spaced Out Radio, we have places for you to hang out. Hi, this is Carl. Join our SOR Space Travelers group on Facebook for live chat. On Twitter, using hashtag Spaced Out Radio, you can also join us in our Spreaker chat room. Check us out on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR. All of our archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. By the way, I'll be watching you at your window until you do. Bye!
Looking for the stories of the strange and weird that you will find hard to find anywhere else? Check out the SOR Newswire on our website. Our writers, led by Captain Shirk, are scouring the world for the oddest and most bizarre stories we can find. Everything from weird crime to suspenseful and paranormal. We're working hard for you to bring you the most intriguing news of your day. Check out the SOR Newswire at spacedoutradio.com today.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio Live with Dave Scott on the Deep Talk Radio Network.
We are getting ready to relaunch the SOR Space Travelers Club at spacedoutradio.com. For $5 a month, you can join us for a plethora of features found nowhere else. Hang out in a private chat room during the show and after party. You can check out some exclusive content and a store specifically for you, as well as a private listener forum where you can post your thoughts, stories, and pictures. the SOR Space Travelers Club, coming soon to spacedoutradio.com.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
You know, it's hard being the bad man of ufology, but that's just the way that I like it. This is Chris George Zuger, and I'll be hanging out with Dave Scott and SOR scientist Chris Cogswell for Reality Paranormal, the second Wednesday of every month. And our job is to break it down and come to conclusions as to what is really going on in the supernatural world. I'd love for you to join us right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thaw. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother Is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother Is Watching.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new, with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Do you want to know what's really going on in your world? Do you have questions about who you can trust in the mainstream media? Then look no further than the Rebel Planet. Come get the straight answers right here at spacedoutradio.com. Join me, Jamie Sexton, creator of Rebel Planet News, as I fill you in on the stories behind the stories. All you truth seekers, be sure to tune in to Rebel Planet on spacedoutradio.com the third Thursday of every month.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
The Call of the Wild is in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is one of the hottest bars and restaurants in the city. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose will rock you like a hurricane all night long. Great food with everything on the menu at $6.95 near the corner of Nelson and Granville. Get your horns up and come rock with us. The Moose Vancouver, the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
The freedom to post what you want, when you want. That's the social media freedom you need. Social Media Freedom is the free app in your app store. No need to worry about going to jail or being shadow banned any longer. It's the freedom to say what you feel, the freedom to know Big Brother isn't watching. It's the way social media is supposed to be. Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free. Download from your app store today.
Hey, this is Canadian Paranormal Investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
On the first Tuesday of every month, I encourage you to come along for a journey with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You. Together, we will take a look at how to access the highest expression of yourself and change your life. Consciousness, ET contact, health, and wellness, we can talk about it all. So come along for a spiritual ride with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You, only on Spaced Out Radio.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio. Tonight, I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for being with us. Tomorrow night on the show, Chris George Zuger, Chris Cogswell, join us for Reality Paranormal. We get going at 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern at spacedoutradio.com. Hi to everyone listening in on the SOR Radio Network and Deep Talk Radio, along with Rev Radio. Don't forget, you can also check our archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. We're still waiting for a password tonight. Desert Clam, where is the password? We need the password for tonight, man. Oh, there it is. Just pops up. Malneurofrenia. Malneurofrenia is your password. Desert Clam, the new man, setting the password each and every night. Right here on the mighty SOR. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. You can rock out to Bumblefoot, grab some really cool swag at our new Spaced Out Radio store, and you can read up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire and so much more. Tonight we are talking Bob Lazar. Jeremy Corbell, independent filmmaker, made a movie last month that came out in regards to this monstrosity of a UFO story regarding Area 51, S4, and the story of Bob Lazar. It was a story that he always wanted to do. Finally did it. Jeremy, welcome back.
Hey, thanks, Dave.
I want to get to some audience questions right off the bat here, if you don't mind. Muji Boy on Twitter at #SpacedOutRadio says, in the film, Lazar was being harassed by the government. Did you, Jeremy, ever experience any harassment while making this movie?
Absolutely not. I didn't. And look, the one way to look at it is I'm not on to anything. And the other way to look at it is it was very bizarre. That was a real aha moment. So what your listener is talking about is in my movie, Bob gets raided by multiple agencies at one time. I mean, 25, 26 forensic collection agents that show up at his place of business the day after I leave. And we had recorded a kind of sensitive conversation. It was about the element 115 that he got out of the lab in 1989, the thing that would definitively prove his story. And that conversation was relayed back to Bob when he was raided it was the FBI, but other agencies as well. So yeah, look, man, it was a very strange experience. It was an eye-opener. It really changed the way that I view and look at my own personal privacy. But no, I've never been pressured. I've never been asked to stop. I think people are egomaniacs and they start making stuff up to sound cool. That's not the way I think most of the government rolls with this stuff. And I don't know. So the answer is no. I've only been assisted, never resisted.
Do you feel lucky by that?
Well, I mean, it's much better than the converse. It's much better than being harassed. I mean, anybody can be shut up. All you got to do is threaten your family, and it's over, so, or most people. So yeah, I mean, I think it's nice. I'm glad. I don't like being harassed. So the people that are harassing me are the UFO public.
Well, I mean, and to their credit, they want answers. All right. They want answers, and they feel that they are not getting answers. And there is some
but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm totally with you. I want answers too. But the thing is I don't go and, try to terrorize and speak negatively about Bob or people when they're just trying to tell you the story so that you have that information. It's a totally different thing, Dave. The people that want answers, I get it. But you can't sit back with your hand out and expect things to be delivered to you. You need to look into this stuff yourself. And I'm very happy talking about and trying to get us closer to the truth through conversation and debate and that sort of thing. But it's the negative stuff, man. It's the people that just are trying to make a name for themselves, riding off the coattails of someone like Bob Lazar. It's sickening. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay, but there are some names out there, and like Chris Cogswell, who's former MUFON scientist. He has his doctorate in chemical engineering. He is our resident scientist here. He's one of the ones who does not buy the Bob Lazar story, and that's fair. I think we can agree on that. And, one of the questions he actually has for you that he asked me to ask you a couple days ago, he's saying, are there any names and affiliations of the scientists that Bob claims about? Did you look into that?
Yeah, so I'm not talking about people like your buddy Chris, who's a scientist that can choose to believe or not believe based upon whatever knowledge he has. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people that are just attacking the story to try to dismiss it, because the best way to, dismiss a message is to dehumanize the messenger. And that's what people have been trying to do with Bob Lazar for over 30 years. Like my buddy Mark, who runs Above Top Secret, if you know that website, abovetopsecret.com, he says Lazar's critics have held the microphone for 30 years. And, you couldn't scream it. You couldn't talk into the microphone because his critics have been holding it. So that's not what I'm talking about. Let's talk about your buddy Chris. His specific question to me was, did I get any other names from people that worked at the S4 program that Bob claimed and try to contact them? Is that Chris's question?
Well, names and affiliations of the scientists they spoke with about Bob's claims.
Okay, well, I mean, I guess it depends what he means. I mean, the answer would be yes. So I've talked to people that worked at Los Alamos with Bob Lazar to prove that he was a scientist there, and they're not going on camera, but at the same time, they worked there with him. I talked to an Area 52 employee who knew Bob Lazar before he was Bob the UFO guy. So this is when he was living in L.A. I talked to people that dropped them off at classes at Caltech, this specific individual who worked at Area 52 as well. So yeah, I've talked to a lot of people. Some people go on camera, other people's won't. I mean, what specifically is the question? What is he looking to get answers? What is your buddy Chris looking to find out? If you can get very specific, I'll give you a specific answer.
More so about, a topic that you are probably absolutely sick of, Element 115, because the Element 115, according to Chris, that has been found today, which I believe is Moscovium.
Yeah, Moscovium.
Is not the same Element 115 that Bob claimed to be using.
Correct, but I mean, look, I don't know if you are relating your friend who's a material scientist, like his question properly, but this is a huge red flag for me, a big misunderstanding, a misnomer. So what people try to use to dismiss Bob Lazar, I doubt that's what your friend was saying. It is freaking obvious that what was created here on Earth, the Moscovium, the Element 115, right? That has a half-life of 220 milliseconds, that it is not the stabilized version isotopically that Bob Lazar talked about. So people pretend they're scientists and come up with this BS, but I don't think your friend is doing that. I just think I'm not getting the exact question from him that makes sense. So I'm sure what he was asking was, I'm guessing what he was asking was, is the 115 different that was made? Yeah, absolutely it was different. Bob said, okay, like gold. Gold has 40 different isotopic combinations from what I understand, right? One is stable, meaning it has a half-life that makes sense to us as humans, a usable half-life. That's the physical, hardcore, tangible gold that we know. So the 39 other isotopic combinations are unstable, right? They don't stick around too long. Same thing with something like element 115. Bob always said, we did not make it. We cannot make it. You know, we might make some atoms, unstable atoms of it. One day, maybe we'll find the stable isotope for it. But he said, I worked on a stabilized form of element 115 that most likely, because of the amount that they told him they had, which was 500 pounds. He never saw it. They told him they had 500 pounds of it, a stockpile. And he definitely had 220-something grams of it in his hand, so he knows there is a stable version, but he always assumed that was harvested from somewhere else, from another supernova that created because it had more mass, you know, maybe a binary star supernova where it had more mass from the beginning. That's what he theorized. But he never said we could make a stable form of element 115, nor did he say that, what he was working on was engineered by humans. It was figured out in a laboratory by smashing, together atoms, and, they found some unstable version of element 115. So I don't think we're getting to the core of your friend's question. I'm sure he's a very smart guy, and I'm not hearing the question right.
All right, let's move on to more questions here. There's a couple coming from Brian here. And he is asking, in the earliest interviews, Bob claimed that he had to drink something that smelled like pine. Did he ever explain to you, Jeremy, on the scenario on which this happened? And did he believe this was protocol as maybe a mind wipe for other team members?
Yeah, he thought about that and was trying to figure it out. We talked about that in depth a number of times. He was doing allergy tests, basically. They told him they were checking him and doing like little skin, tests because he's going to be working with kind of exotic materials, and they're just making sure he's not like hyper allergic to something. He did drink something that tasted or smelled actually like pine fluid, like pine sol. But it's not like he doesn't think he was mind wiped. He doesn't today. He doesn't think he was mind wiped. He doesn't think it just completely obliterated his memory or that he was drugged in some big way. At the time there was talk that he couldn't recall every detail. And, if you know Bob, like he can't remember what he had for breakfast. So I get that. But he does recall the important details. So it's not as mysterious as people have made it out to be. We don't think.
See, and that's one of the questions I've always had about Bob, is Bob has always gone on record, whether it was old Coast to Coast with Art Bell or even like you just mentioned, how he has troubles remembering things, yet this story he remembers like it was yesterday.
Well, yeah, because look, everything was shocking, though. Like the big details were shocking. Like, that's the thing. When you talk with him a little bit, you get to, and you see it in my film. You get to understand like every single thing was like this huge moment. He didn't care that they had such crazy security and they were, pointing at poking their finger into his chest and screaming at him. He wanted to work on these flying saucers once he figured out kind of what they were, this propulsion system. So he remembers things that are intensely vivid in his mind, but it's very different than the details of like 30 years ago. What time did you drive to the airport? Was it day or was it night? That kind of thing has always been hard for Bob because, that's the way his brain works, I guess.
No, I understand that, but it also opens up to a lot of holes in his story.
Right, but a lot of the holes are kind of created by people who are fictionalizing stuff. Like, what's the big hole? Like, what's the really big hole in Bob's story? I've never really understood a lot of what is said.
Well, I mean, in regards to the whole memory thing, I mean, if you can't remember, what you had for dinner a week ago or even 2 nights ago, but you can sure as hell remember, driving on a blacked out bus in the middle of the desert, not knowing where you're going, and it's 3 lefts, 2 rights, and a lot of straightaways before you get to this door that has
he never
lines
said 3
painted on the ground.
He never said 3 lefts, 2 rights. Yeah, but let's just be clear for your audience. So what you're posing, though, what you're saying is that maybe he has a bad memory for like his daily stuff, but then he's got a good memory. Okay, well, check this out. Can you remember the first time that you made out with a girl, right? There are these monumental moments in anybody's life, right? Maybe that's a bad example.
Absolutely. I was 14 years old at a high school sock hop.
Okay, awesome. So, I mean, I was like, okay, what's a relatable monumental moment? Okay, so you've got these monumental moments in your life. And I think like seeing an alien propulsion system that works off of like gravity amplification, that's pretty monumental, right? So, he might not remember what he had for breakfast that day. But no, the thing is, I've never seen huge lapses in Bob's recall. I've never seen huge lapses in the story that he's told and the story that as it pans out with time and whatnot. He's always been pretty darn clear when he's talked to me about it. But yeah.
See, I'm trying to ask you questions here that, everybody knows what Bob has said. Everybody always seems to ask the same question. So that's why I'm trying to go down a different line of questioning here. I hope you don't
Oh, no, I love it. And, don't misjudge my enthusiasm for like, I love your questions. And I hope I can answer them. Maybe I can, maybe I can't.
Well, I mean, that's why we do what we do in regards to it, because there's a lot of questions that I feel have never been asked. So we're going to continue on here. Prior to Bob working for the first time at the S4 facility, he was prepped for his work at places like EG&G and down in New Mexico and so on and so forth. Did he work in a science lab, a building, a private office? What did he describe about previous to Area 51 leading up to it?
Yeah, so actually I have footage that I have put in my film. I didn't make a big deal out of it and I didn't prolong it. That's not what my movie was about. But in a lot of like the fast cuts of my film, you'll see these flashes of Los Alamos and in a laboratory at the particle accelerator. And that's where Bob worked. He worked at the Maison facility. And, again, I have footage of him walking through the Maison facility, with another employee there and talking about it and kind of even laughing because it was kind of like it was a fun environment for him. He worked for quite some time. So, yes, you see that in my film. It was a laboratory. They dealt a lot with lasers. And, yes, he was a physicist that worked at Los Alamos. And that's why, I had Dr. Krangle come forward. And it's hard to find a physicist that still works in, scientific capacity at Los Alamos who worked there in 1989 that will then go on record with you because they don't want to like start a public stir and then not get jobs, let's say, at Los Alamos anymore. But I found Dr. Robert Krangle, who absolutely bona fide. I have all his documents. I've shown them to other journalists. He worked at Los Alamos at the same time as Bob Lazar. And he remembers Bob Lazar, the physicist. And he remembers, going to security briefings with Bob Lazar that was just for physicists. And it's so funny. People try to mitigate this testimony and tried to diminish it. And even Stan Freeman tried to diminish it and say, well, he only knew Bob was a scientist or a physicist because of his pocket protector. No, that's not true at all. Listen to the full recording of the interview I did. He absolutely know 100% Bob Lazar was a physicist because you sit around at lunch and you talk about it. You're like, that physicist over there, can't tell you exactly what he's working on at Los Alamos, but, it's just in a security briefing with him. So, yeah, man, look, Bob Lazar was a physicist at Los Alamos. He worked there prior to 1989. Robert Krangle was also there at the same time, Dr. Robert Krangle, and he does testify to the fact he's in security briefings with Bob Lazar. But again, George Knapp in 1980, probably 1990, he found Bob's name in the phone book. I talked to the man that actually did the article on Bob Lazar and his jet car. Bob Lazar, the physicist in the Los Alamos Monitor, last name English, Mr. English. I talked to him just a few months ago. Yeah, Bob was a physicist, and he also interviewed the godfather of the atomic bomb, who Bob said that he actually got his first interview with. So
I do want to ask, and this comes from Michelle on Twitter at #SpacedOutRadio. I want to get to her question. She says, I think, Jeremy, what you're trying to say is Bob has miserable short-term memory and wonderful long-term memory. Do you think that would be a correct statement?
I don't know if that's even accurate, but thanks for the point, Michelle. I didn't make a big deal necessarily about Bob's memory. Everybody else did. They're trying to diminish his story by saying he drank a pine-smelling fluid and that he didn't remember stuff because he was drugged and his mind wiped. And what I'm saying is that's not true. Bob's kind of got the same memory as me. I don't know what I ate for breakfast this morning. I'd really have to sit down and I'd have to think about it. But at the same time, yeah, his impact memory, the memory of big life events, is very tangible. It is very well refined. And in fact, that's why he went, and you see in my movie this really cool moment where I blend old footage from, the early 90s with like current day footage of the man that did the hypnosis for Bob Lazar, just so Bob could remember every detail of what he learned in scientific capacity at S4. So what I'm saying is, Bob has the type of memory that where I don't expect him to understand what he had for breakfast, but I do trust in his memory of and his recall and his comprehension for big events.
Do you think then that Bob, in regards to working on these UFOs, really was affected negatively? Because when you go into a situation, when you see something that is not supposed to exist, it plays with your mind. Jeremy, it completely plays with your mind. You talk to first-time people who see an extraterrestrial or a black triangle hovering above their house, seeing a Sasquatch or a ghost. It plays with their mind. Do you think that Bob's mind maybe could not handle everything that he was seeing? Was he emotionally unstable to do what he did in order to get John Lear and Gene Huff involved?
No, I think the people that hear Bob's story, their mind is often unstable and they can't handle it. I think Bob's mind was always very capable of handling it. I think that he's a very rational person and he's over analytic, and it's incredible to watch. Actually, he's hyper skeptical. But no, I think that it's like, imagine this. Somebody tells you there's alien beings, there's UFOs, and you're like, okay, that's cool. Let me see the propulsion. That's all I'm interested in. And then like, okay, well, here's some photos. Here's some photos of an autopsy of aliens. Check this out. Read these briefings. Okay, wow, 5 minutes. This is crazy. And then you just want to see the propulsion system of the UFO. And then you're like, okay, that's cool. You say that there's like a whole culture from Zeta Reticuli, and they're the ones that like okay, great. 5 minutes later, let me see the propulsion of the UFO. That was kind of the way Bob was. So it was kind of like he didn't really care. He heard all this stuff. He doesn't even know what it means. He's like, I just want to see how it works. But then he does see how it works. And as a scientist, that freaked him out. He's like, whoa, this is everything, as advertised. This is what people were talking about. This is real. But it really hit him. Because remember, the first time he saw a UFO, he walks in, runs his hand along it, and he thinks, oh, gosh, look, we have UFOs. All those idiots that think UFOs are real. The whole time it was America. It was us. That was his attitude. But then he walked inside of one. And that's when he realized that the craft wasn't made for the normal-sized human to operate. That there were 3 smaller-sized seats within the UFO. And it felt ominous to him. And I think that was the first moment that it really sunk into Bob Lazar. And I think that was the first moment it became very real that this craft was not ours.
That's gut-wrenching. That is gut-wrenching when you have that feeling. I know that feeling personally. And it is something, Jeremy, as we're into our final minute here before we got to go to break, it is something that sticks with you. Is that a memory clear as day to Bob?
Oh, yeah.
How does it, did he ever tell you how it affected his everyday life?
Well, I think that he's very comfortable with the idea that we're not alone. And that, he had physical evidence. It's like, I don't know, man. They showed him the Holy Grail. They showed him the propulsion system as a scientist. He freaked out about it. Wow. So once you know that's real, I think it gave him a sense of peace, actually, what it seems like.
Jeremy, you hold on. We're going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Jeremy Corbell is our guest tonight, film director of the latest Bob Lazar documentary. We got more UFO talk and Bob Lazar talk coming up next in the next half hour of Spaced Out Radio, so stay tuned.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio Live with Dave Scott on the Deep Talk Radio Network.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
You know, it's hard being the bad man of ufology, but that's just the way that I like it. This is Chris George Zuger, and I'll be hanging out with Dave Scott and SOR scientist Chris Cogswell for Reality Paranormal, the second Wednesday of every month. And our job is to break it down and come to conclusions as to what is really going on in the supernatural world. I'd love for you to join us right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Hi there, this is Geraldine Orozco from San Francisco's Bay Area Meditation. I invite you to join me the first Tuesday of every month with Dave Scott for Spaced Out Radio's The Spiritual You. In this fast-paced world we live in, it's time for you to take some time for you. We'll cover every possible subject from powerful meditation to healing techniques to your own intuition and spirituality. So come join us for The Spiritual You.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thaw, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want, when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Did you know Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi there, this is Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm here to take you on a paranormal journey each Saturday and Sunday night. Why change the station when you have it all right here? Together, we'll hang out and share some strange and scary stories. And don't forget, we have Psychic Sundays as well, so come tune in Spaced Out Weekend. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com, where we own the night. Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
We're bringing scientific thought to the paranormal. Hi there, this is Spaced Out Radio scientist Chris Cogswell. Join me, Chris Zuger, and Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month, where we break down the who from the woo when it comes to everything paranormal. We'll investigate and try to bring sensible answers to those straight and sometimes outlandish questions people have. Hey, not everything has an answer, but we'll do our best. Listen in to Reality Paranormal only on Spaced Out Radio.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Welcome back to the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for tuning on in tonight. We're talking Bob Lazar, Area 51, the new documentary put out by investigative filmmaker Jeremy Corbell, who is our guest tonight. Jeremy, thank you so much for being with us. We got you for another hour here, and we're going to be peppering you with questions in regards to this whole Bob Lazar movie that you created. Right before the break, we started getting into the whole UFO topic of him touching a craft inside S4 when he was there. Before we get more into the craft, did Bob ever talk about coming face to face with extraterrestrials? Because other people who claim they have been at Area 51 said that there was extraterrestrials actually on the facility and potentially helping define what these craft were.
Yeah, man. I mean, great stories. Would love even like the smallest amount of confirmation about those stories. Like how at least we have some basic confirmation about Bob's story in a number of ways. So I don't know. So I addressed that in my film. I do ask Bob Lazar. I said, Bob, did you see an alien at S4? People say you saw an alien. Did you see one? So that's like in my movie. I talk about that. Because it was reported from back in the day that as Bob was walking down one of the hallways, he looked through one of the mesh windows and he saw what appeared to be a small, kind of half-size human body sitting in a chair with two people talking at it. So he wasn't sure. He said like a 400 millisecond glance and he looked through a window. But today, we're in 2019 now. Bob says, no, I don't think I saw an alien. I think they were obsessed with measurements. I think they were measuring a doll or something. And, it's really hard. I mean, people who want to believe he saw an alien, like John Lear, they will promote that he saw an alien, 100%. Bob himself, if you ask Bob today, Bob says, and you'll see it in my film, no, I don't think I saw an alien. He didn't. There certainly weren't like aliens walking around and all sorts of stuff like that. They were referenced in the literature, that Bob read as the kids.
Brian is asking, when can people see your interview on Larry King?
That will be this, from what I hear, that will be this Friday. It will launch on Hulu and also on Aura TV or something like that. But it will be Friday, and I'll make sure to propagate it out to everybody when it comes, because that's what I'm told, Friday. It's an amazing interview. It's like 30 minutes with Bob and me and Larry King.
What's it like having to stare at Larry King's giant head?
I gotta tell you, he's got a big head, man. It's wild.
He's got a big head.
Oh, he's got a big head. I mean, he's definitely like an alien himself. Here's my Larry King moment. Everybody's running around. They're like setting the everything up, the cameras, everything. And he's looking down at his papers, and he looks right up at me with his left eye. He gives a wink, looks right into the camera, and starts talking. And that wink was like, "It's going to be all right, kid." It was pretty funny, man. Yeah, it's
nice.
Cool.
Michael is asking, Jeremy, how much time did you spend at Bob Lazar's house, and how many times did you have to visit him to film?
I visited him a number of times. I mean, 3 in Michigan, and he came out twice to California and stayed with me at my ranch. So I would stay about over a week per time. So as far as me going out to visit him and stay with him, I'd say 3 times a week at a time, him coming out twice to stay with me. And then, all the phone calls and conversations and filmings between.
All right, let's get to Gail's question. She is asking, what was the ultimate reason for Bob exposing all he experienced? Hadn't he promised to keep his knowledge to himself?
Well, he promised when he got involved with the program, that he would not disclose any of the information about the program. But that was before they started threatening his life and his wife's life. So I think he was all in, and he was interested in the scientific work, and he was totally cool. He already had a Q clearance at Los Alamos, which is the highest civilian clearance, I guess, for, scientific capacity and that kind of thing. He already had that, so they reactivated his Q clearance, and then they got him what he said, oddly enough, was majestic clearance, right? So he was being reviewed for higher clearance as he was being taken and indoctrinated into the program. And of course, yes, he signed some document, as a lot of people do in these, black programs, basically saying, special access programs, basically saying, yeah, to the penalty of death, I won't talk about it, right? But, everything changes when you're being threatened. And so he showed people the test flights on 3 different occasions, 3 different Wednesdays, took people out there, 3 different groups. They all saw it. They saw a test flight of what looked like a flying saucer over Papoose Lake, not over Area 51. This is 1989 over Papoose Lake. So this bizarrely remote area of a remote base that most people didn't even know about. But after he showed them, they did get caught on that 3rd time, and that's when Bob really started fearing for his life. And that's why he decided to talk, was to protect himself.
Do you think the rules at Area 51 for employees changed after Bob Lazar came out? Because in 29 and a half years, we have not had a single scientist, a single janitor, a single cafeteria chef, or anybody come out and confirm, deny, or say that they could corroborate Bob's story of their own experience.
Right. Publicly, you haven't had that. I understand that. I totally get that. However, I would argue that to some degree. Yeah, I mean, look, Bob would love somebody from the 22-person program, to come out. Like even his lab partner, Barry, he thought Barry was going to come forward when he came forward. He thought they shared a bond, that this stuff should be known by the general public, but Barry never came forward. However, I will say that I personally, I've talked to a number of people that knew that south of Groom Lake that there was a place called S4. and that there was non-terrestrial programs, or what they called. So these are people not involved with the programs, and like let's say they go to the bar at Area 51, one of the big bars there was Sam's Place. So let's say they go there, and they're drinking, and there's little bits that are told to them. One of the things that I've heard, a few different times, is that there was knowledge that there was exploitation of foreign technology occurring south of Groom Lake. So that's back engineering. So yeah, I don't know, man. It was a small program. We'd all love to have confirmation.
Did Bob ever work with David Adair?
No.
So going 30 years further to today, what is Bob's opinion of UFOs? Not just, we'll get into the Area 51 side here in a second, but he has no life or love for this subject. But
right.
He now he believes in UFOs. He knows they're real.
Yes.
What's his thoughts on ufology today?
Right. No, that's a very fascinating area, Dave. Actually, I showed him the videos. I'm going to get him to meet Commander David Fravor, who was, the pilot from the Tic Tac UFO case story I broke twice before the New York Times. They're going to get together. They're going to talk. What does he think about the modern day ufology and the government, admission of ATIP and all that stuff? It's very important. I just want to jump real quick back and say, I don't know the name. He said David, and then Dan, all those people that claimed they worked at S4, total liars, fabricators, BS. Nobody has ever come forward to Bob's, nobody's ever come forward and convinced him that they had ever been there. There's very simple questions you can ask to know if somebody had ever been at the base where he worked. But anyway, what does Bob think about modern day UFO stuff? Look, he knows UFOs are real. He knows that they're based on a gravity propulsion system. He knows what he was told, where they were from, although he doesn't know that to be true. It's just something he read and was kind of told in the briefings. He does think that the majority of the UFOs that people describe are gravity propelled, that they replicate exactly the way that he described that they worked. He is interested in the Tic Tac, the Nimitz UFO encounter from 2004 with Commander David Fravor. I showed him the video, talked to him about it. He's skeptical of the government, obviously. He's skeptical of the fact that they're releasing about ATIP, obviously. But he's very hopeful because they have released some information. There's whispers of a UFO crash retrieval program and a biological program. So if those get named, that would be another step forward. So I don't know. He's optimistic yet reserved.
I do have to ask, because I'm a little confused by this, Jeremy. We have a major whistleblower in Bob Lazar mentioning Area 51, got away with his life by going publicly to the press when it was at a time when the press still didn't pick political sides. They were still doing their job. All right. Survived that. Went into became a recluse in the field, doesn't want to talk about it, comes out with your movie, and so on and so forth. I'm always and this is a big question that I have. We have Bob Lazar, the whistleblower, and now we have Bob Lazar, the government contractor. Why would the government give Lazar, a whistleblower who blew some of the biggest secrets to the public, sung like a canary, government contracts?
It's so funny. Yeah, people they try to discredit him with this too. It's like, I get it, but okay, he still had, radiation detectors and a contract to service those radiation detectors at Los Alamos, even after he was working and he essentially got fired from S4. So people are like, well, how is that possible? Oh my gosh, clearly they have never worked for the government. I mean, it is so amazing how, the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing, especially in compartmentalized programs. But I mean, if you just look through history, this happens all the time. You think the government is one entity in America. You think it's like one thing, the government. And it is so not one thing. There are so many different contracts. There are so many different government opportunities. It's not like if you're and again, look, the best way to discredit Bob Lazar by our government is to ignore him. Right? If they ever showed interest in him, it would confirm his story. That's why when he was in court, and he showed him the W-2 form and he told his story, and that's why they had to get Congressman Bill Bray, with the judge to be like, well, we think he's lying. We can't prove anything about his employment. And they go to the base and they try to get his records, and they didn't say we don't have them. They said, you don't have a need to know about Bob Lazar. So, yeah, man, the quick answer to what you just asked is it has nothing to do with it. The way the United States government works, it's so the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is working. He had, detector, contracts while, right after he worked at S4. He gets current contracts. Current, really cool scientific contracts. Sometimes he said, there was a couple times when they said, now, Bob, this is secret. You can't talk about this. They joked with him a little bit, but it wasn't what you'd expect.
No, and I can understand that, but it just doesn't make sense to me, though. Here you have somebody who has given the most advanced secrets that the government has, or some of them, I should say, in regards to extraterrestrial technology, which literally could change, next to Jesus Christ himself coming down from the heavens above, change the entire scope and focus of mankind's history. And they try to kill him. All right, they threatened to kill him. There's still question of whether or not his former wife was killed by the government or not.
No, she wasn't. Let me clean that up.
Okay.
That is just the biggest BS, and it makes me so furious. The conspiracies and the way they try to harm Bob by saying that stuff. His wife had cancer. This was before he worked out at the Area 51 complex in S4. Way before. This is Los Alamos. He had moved to Las Vegas, or was in the middle of a move. She had terminal cancer. She took her own life. He was not in town. She left a suicide note that explained it all. Nobody who knows the story is confused about it, except for the fake news, the stuff that people put out on the internet about his wife being killed by the gun. No, this is before he ever worked for the United States military. This is before he worked at S4. It was a tragedy. His wife had terminal cancer. Can you imagine living through that? It is sick. Yeah. It is sick to me that people try to say even worse stuff about his wife and him. But I just want to clear that up because it bothers me, man.
Well, no, and I apologize for asking that or making that comment.
No, you didn't do anything wrong. You're just reporting the news. It's what people say, and they're wrong.
And thank you for clearing that up. I do appreciate that. But it's still tough to understand how a gentleman who could put the government in such security precautions that all of a sudden he's now getting paid by government contracts.
Well, it's so okay, but it's so I think it's difficult unless you've ever had government contracts or seen how the military works. Look, I'm trying to think of a way to equate it, but so what you're saying is because he gets government contracts now, how is that possible? And he's like this huge whistleblower. Remember, it was such a compartmentalized program that people even in Area 51 didn't know about S4. It was a subcontractor that ran it. So I know a guy, personally, that worked for 6 years at Area 51. And he had one of the all-access badges to the entire Area 51 complex. So one time, he drives down to Papoose Lake. And this is, he's just thinking, oh, this is really cool. I'm going to go check this out. I'm going to go on a drive. And this is before Bob Lazar, actually. And he gets stopped by a whole bunch of subcontractors in black fatigues at the entrance of the Papoose Lake, where people say there isn't anything. And he was told to turn around. And he's like, but I have all access. I'm military. You're just a subcontractor, a civilian. Oh, at gunpoint, though, he turned around. So I hope to be able to share that testimony with the public. But there you go. You got somebody at Papoose Lake. You've got a subcontractor in black fatigues, not Army fatigues, not Marine fatigues, not military fatigues, black fatigues, and at gunpoint telling military guys to turn around. So that's the compartmentalization you're dealing with. So if you have a scientific organization that does contracts, they don't know who Bob Lazar is. I know a guy that got fired from Area 52. He was not allowed to continue having his security clearance simply because he knew Bob Lazar. So they fired him just because he knew Bob after Bob came public. So that's real. That happened. And it's really bizarre, man. It's just the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing.
John Lear has just made a comment on my Facebook page.
Oh, good. Hey, John, I'm glad you're finally talking to me.
So he says, I've known Bob for 30 years. I was one of the few who actually saw his degrees from Caltech and MIT when we first met in the summer of 1988 when Gene Huff brought him over to my house to help him praise it. My question is, there's a big, we talked about it, touched on it earlier, and we got a couple minutes left before we got to go to break at the top of the hour. But his education, his degrees, why can't he just go back to the schools and ask for reprints?
Right. Right. He could. I probably guess he could. So let's unravel this a little bit and kind of get into that. So first of all, I'm really glad that John must be listening if he wrote on to your show, because John has just talked crap ever since the movie came out. And it's so sad because I filmed with John for like 7 years and I really respected John. But unfortunately, for some reason, he's just made a bunch of nonsense up about, that I got footage from his house and I stole it from his house or something ridiculous to make the movie. Every piece of footage came from George Knapp or Bob Lazar directly. So I'm glad John is listening because I really like John. But sometimes, he kind of gets under my skin. He annoys me because he says things that aren't true. But what he just said is true, which is that, he did experience knowing Bob Lazar before Bob was Bob the UFO guy. But John Lear is the reason that Bob Lazar came forward to George Knapp because he's the one that introduced them to be able to make that first show in 1989 happen where he went in silhouette, came out as Dennis. So we have to give John a lot of respect for that. But John, you got to stop pushing this BS because it's just not fair.
Well, you know what? I mean, there's a lot out there, man. This is a touchy subject, and it still is, including the media. We will talk about the media after on the break here on the media side of things because, well, that kind of intrigues me for what I do, and I know it intrigues some of you out there as well. We'll get to more UFO talk. We got Jeremy Corbell. I apologize. on the show tonight, we are talking UFOs. We are talking Bob Lazar. We are talking Area 51 S4. If you haven't seen his new documentary, you can go to Apple iTunes, download it there. It's well worth the watch. Highly suggest you do. And you know what? Maybe, just maybe, because Jeremy has one of those great beards that we love here on Spaced Out Radio. Maybe, just maybe, he'll autograph that beard for you. Jeremy, you got to do that. You definitely got to do that. No, I'm teasing. I'm absolutely teasing. But Jeremy, you hold on here, my friend. We got you for another 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio. I'm very excited. We're going to get to more topics on S4, Bob Lazar, and so much more coming up right after this break.
Hang out with Spaced Out Radio, where we own the night. This is Carl. You can follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, and during the show, use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio to chat with us live. On Instagram, at Dave Scott SOR. On Facebook, give our page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. SOR archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. Come join us, or I will come join you. See you at your window.
At spacedoutradio.com, we have a little bit of everything for you to stay up late. So while you're there, check out our SOR Newswire, where our team brings you stories of the weird and strange to the WTF from around the globe. News on Bigfoot, UFOs, paranormal, Darwinian-type crime tales. It's the stories that the mainstream media usually won't touch. Well, we got them all on the SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio Live with Dave Scott on the Deep Talk Radio Network.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
We are getting ready to relaunch the SOR Space Travelers Club at spacedoutradio.com. For $5 a month, you can join us for a plethora of features found nowhere else. Hang out in a private chat room during the show and after party. You can check out some exclusive content and a store specifically for you, as well as a private listener forum where you can post your thoughts, stories, and pictures. The SOR Space Travelers Club, coming soon to spacedoutradio.com.
Do you want to know what's really going on in your world? Do you have questions about who you can trust in the mainstream media? Then look no further than the Rebel Planet. Come get the straight answers right here at spacedoutradio.com. Join me, Jamie Sexton, creator of Rebel Planet News, as I fill you in on the stories behind the stories. All you truth seekers, be sure to tune in to Rebel Planet on spacedoutradio.com the third Thursday of every month.
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new, with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
The Call of the Wild is in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is one of the hottest bars and restaurants in the city. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose will rock you like a hurricane all night long. Great food with everything on the menu at $6.95 near the corner of Nelson and Granville. Get your horns up and come rock with us. The Moose Vancouver, the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hey, this is Canadian Paranormal Investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
You know, it's hard being the bad man of ufology, but that's just the way that I like it. This is Chris George Zuger, and I'll be hanging out with Dave Scott and SOR scientist Chris Cogswell for Reality Paranormal, the second Wednesday of every month. And our job is to break it down and come to conclusions as to what is really going on in the supernatural world. I'd love for you to join us right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother Is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother Is Watching.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
The freedom to post what you want, when you want. That's the social media freedom you need. Social Media Freedom is the free app in your app store. No need to worry about going to jail or being shadow banned any longer. It's the freedom to say what you feel. The freedom to know Big Brother isn't watching. It's the way social media is supposed to be. Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free. Download from your app store today.
On the first Tuesday of every month, I encourage you to come along for a journey with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You. Together, we will take a look at how to access the highest expression of yourself and change your life. Consciousness, ET contact, health, and wellness, we can talk about it all. So come along for a spiritual ride with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You, only on Spaced Out Radio.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back to the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for being with us. Tomorrow night on the show, we get back to reality with Reality Paranormal. Chris and Chris will join us. We get going at 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern at spacedoutradio.com. We welcome back everyone listening in on the SOR Radio Network and Deep Talk Radio, along with Rev Radio. Don't forget, you can check out our archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Malneurophrenia. Malneurophrenia is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. You can rock out to Bumblefoot. Shop at our brand new store. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag now. And you can also read up on the SOR Newswire put together by Captain Shirk. For the final time tonight, we introduce Jeremy Corbell. He is a independent filmmaker. His most recent movie is Off the Charts. Off the Charts. Everybody who is a fanatic about UFOs is checking out this movie. It is about Bob Lazar. It is called Bob Lazar, Area 51 and Flying Saucers. You can go on Apple iTunes to get it. Jeremy, thank you so much for going the distance with us tonight, man. Really appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, man. This is great. I really enjoy talking with you, man.
How has the media response been in regards to this entire story of rebranding Bob Lazar?
I mean, yeah, the media has been absolutely incredible. If you've been watching what's been happening, I mean, look, the New York Times put a piece in print about it. I went on Fox News. I ended in Larry King. I mean, it's absolutely insane. I did a New York press tour. It's unbelievable, man. So yeah, the media is so curious. They are eating this up. I mean, how many times do we get to see the UFOs on all of those networks that I just said? I mean, this is pretty crazy. Look, this is an absolute success for ufology, for people interested in UFOs, whether you like my movie or not, which, by the way, it's damn good and you should watch it. But, whether you like it or not, it's a huge success for UFOs, for the topic in general. It has hit the mainstream media in a way that has not been seen in a long time.
Part of a little bit of controversy here in regards to your media run, you've taken a lot of heat for going on Secure Team 10 with Bob, and other media outlets, whether it's this one, other shows like this one, have not had Bob on the show because Bob doesn't like the media attention, which I think we can all agree with. However, when it comes to a group like Secure Team 10, and Tyler does a great job in building his 1.9 million followers, but
he's over 2 million now. He's over 2 million.
But there is a lot of questions in regards to his credibility at any time, because Tyler has been caught with CGI, fake UFOs on his site, and that he has claimed is real. Did you worry or concern yourself with putting Bob on a site that is a little bit out there, shall we say?
Yeah, I did, because, we're landing things like Newsweek and Fox and, New York Times, and absolutely, but the thing is, I know Tyler now over these years, and, he's really a good kid. He is, learning as he goes, and he has a kind of big shoulders now. He's got 2 million direct to email fans through YouTube. It's the biggest UFO station when it comes to the UFO topic. So I know about his history. I know what people have said about him, but I actually talked with him. And, it's not about him, really. It's about his fans. And that's where I really think we need to make the distinction here. Tyler's a good guy. He's trying to do better. He's learning from his mistakes. Yes, he's made mistakes. He admitted to those mistakes. But I think overall, you've got 2 million people interested in the UFO topic. So I actually convinced Bob. I was like, Bob, I know you're not doing any media. I know you're going to go on George's show because he broke a story with you 30 years ago. You said, I got you to do Larry King, but it was like, okay, look, let's just talk to an audience that hasn't heard your story. Let's talk to the YouTube audience. And I kind of convinced them to do it. And I'm really glad I did. Because, people can talk trash all they want about Tyler and, what he's done in the past. I actually really like Tyler, and I think he's doing a good thing, and I think that he's learning from his mistakes, and I'm totally, behind him. I think he's doing awesome. But more importantly, think about the 2 million subscribers that are into UFOs, like you and me, right? And it's
absolutely.
And I think to give them a little bit of, cut Bob Lazar interview, I think that was important. And so, yeah, man, I decided to petition for it, and Bob trusted me, and he went on the show, and I'm really glad. And I think everybody that got their panties in a bunch that I gave it to Tyler and not someone else, and that Bob did, they can just go sit and spin. I think Tyler did a lot of good work, and I think he deserved it, and I think he's a good person, and I think he's got a good channel, and I think it's a new audience of 2 million people that needed to hear Bob's story.
Was it about the audience rather than any other type of programs out there? I'm okay. I'll be honest with you, because let's put me on the spot here, because you and I are talking. I petitioned you for Lazar. You told me no. Mm-hmm. I was fine with that. Right? Yeah. Because that's the way it works. That's the way this business works. You don't have a hate on for me. I don't have a hate on for you. No, not at all.
You reacted normal. You're like, okay, exactly. I get it. He's not doing interviews. Yeah, some other people, oh my God, am I blacklisted? They tried to extort me. They tried to get me. It was sickening, man. So I learned a lot about human nature from that. So, for example, you were like, okay, I got it. Bob's not doing interviews. Great. And you know what? Bob wasn't doing interviews. But the thing is that when Tyler asked for it, yeah, absolutely. It was about, the fans that he had that I think were not exposed to the story. And I thought it was also a new medium. Like he did radio. He went on with George, right? So he did his job. Mm-hmm. It was like he didn't want to do shows But I convinced him, and he did it. And George convinced him. He did a show with George. So he did a radio show. I could not convince Bob to do another radio show. There was just no way. So what was another option? Okay, the Larry King Show. Hey, Bob, it's a TV show. It's not radio. It's different. Will you do that? And then he's like, okay. So he did the TV show. So the only thing I could squeeze out of him, I said, Bob, it's a YouTube show. It's different. It's not radio. It's not TV. So I kind of got him on that, I think. So, look, it wasn't anything personal to everybody that asked. Look, everybody wants to have Bob on. I would love for Bob to go on with everybody. But I needed to convince him of different things that he should do to help me promote the movie, because hopefully he cares that my movie doesn't suck and fail, right?
Mm-hmm. Outside, and I just want to ask one more question about this, and then we'll move on, because I don't think we should beat a dead horse here. But outside of the personal relation, outside of, let's say, the 1.9 or 2 million viewers that Tyler has, in regards to it, without slagging Tyler, because he's done great work in building that. He's done something that every UFO channel out there would love to do, and somehow he's been able to do it. There's always a first guy. But that reputation that is out there in regards to that, did you think at all that may hurt your or Bob's reputation?
Yeah, sure. At the very beginning, before the Lazar film, when it came to the Hunt for the Skinwalker film, and I was looking at what Tyler was doing and kind of analyzing it. Of course, I was a little bit concerned because of, Tyler's past and that kind of thing. But everybody's got to get over it, man. I mean, they're just point fingers, and there's 4 more pointing back at them. I mean, Tyler has done some great stuff. I really think Tyler is a good person, and he is doing better and better every time. And everybody that's upset with it, they're just a bunch of haters, man. I honestly believe he's doing a really good thing for the UFO world, and he's getting better and better as he goes. And bottom line is, people are listening. He's got a really good audience, and he feels that responsibility. So I don't know, man. You could talk about this, and sure, I was a little bit concerned here or there, but he handled himself like a professional, and he put it out, and I think it's great. And I'm stoked he did it, and I'm stoked I convinced Bob to do a radio show, a TV show, and a YouTube show. That was a huge success, for everybody, because they get to hear Bob. So it's like whoever gets the interview is one thing, but everybody gets to hear it.
Yeah, you know what? But that's jealousy of the media. That's the way it works. We all want it. We all want to break the story.
I get that. I get that.
Yeah, we all want it. But I mean, you have to make those hard choices. And going to a 2 minute, you know what? I could admit we got including downloads and everything, and our live listeners and everything. We get about 150,000. I can't compete with 2 million. I would be stupid enough. I would be stupid enough to think that I could compete with that. Am I a little pissed off? Of course. I'm a journalist. Why wouldn't I be? There's an ego.
But you handle it respectfully. And the thing is, I didn't just go to Tyler because he had 2 million. I got to be honest with you again, which is that it was, there's other people that are really helping out this campaign on YouTube, like Ben from Top Fives. Incredible dude. He's got a huge audience, right? His videos get huge views, and he totally helped me. But here's the deal. Like, I needed to choose, how can I get the most out of Bob so that the audience could hear? And again, it was like a radio show with George Knapp. It was a TV show with Larry King. And it was a YouTube show with Tyler. And I thought it was great. It's not just the numbers, though. I have to say, I really do think Tyler is doing a good job in what he's doing. I want to emphasize that I go on shows all the time. They don't have huge reach. It's because the hosts are cool, man. It's all about relationships. There are huge shows that want me on and people that I work with, and I will never do it. They're blacklisted because they're horrible people. So bottom line is it all comes down to relationships, right?
No, and I think you're right. There has to be a modicum, whether you agree or not, there has to be a modicum of professionalism, because the next time around, you want to be that guy in line that Jeremy says, okay, well, last time we went here, but this time I'm going there. It's a matter of setup in professionalism.
Yeah, that's what all business stuff, banging on the door and being a jerk is never gonna, win you the encouragement of other people. You have to have good bedside manner when it comes to journalism or film or radio. So yeah, I get it, man. I get it.
Yeah, I get it too in regards to it. Moving on in regards to Bob Lazar, what's he doing now? What is really his purpose now moving forward in the field of ufology? Is he done because he's done this film? Now he can go back to living his quiet private life after stepping into the spotlight again? What does he do?
Yeah. I'm like trying to pull him out to do anything he'll do with me, like any Q&As for, like, I'm trying to show the movie like near where he lives, so he'll do a Q&A, and he's like, Jeremy, I just want to be Bob. I don't want to be Bob the UFO guy. I don't want to have to deal with that. So he wants to go back to his semi-normal life. And yeah, that's what's interesting. So he runs a business called United Nuclear out of Michigan. You can go to unitednuclear.com, and that's where it's a scientific consulting and supply business. So you can like get cool neodymium magnets and all sorts of scientific supplies. And in fact, I had a bunch of the movie posters from the premiere. I had a huge premiere, by the way. Let's celebrate this in downtown LA. It's called The Theater. It was a theater built by Charlie Chaplin. It was 1,650 people plus a sold out world premiere to my film. It was the most heroic moment because everybody said I was going to fail, right? But no, the fans came out. Incredible night. And I have all these posters remaining. Actual like physical posters, and I sent them to Bob, and I was like, Bob, they're gonna kill me, so you need to sell these. And what he, out of his supply shop, he can do that. So if you go to United Nuclear, you look up the Area 51 thing, you'll find the poster, and for no extra charge, he'll like autograph it for you. So I actually sent in for a couple family members to get autographs from Bob for the thing. So that's what he does. He has a scientific supply business, and go there, check it out. It's pretty neat.
I remember a couple years ago when we were talking about the potential of this happening. You said, fingers crossed, I'm trying to make this happen.
Oh, really?
You made it happen.
Wow.
I remember asking you off the air this question, and you said, dude, I'm gonna try and get that question in, so I'm gonna hit you up for it. I'm putting you on the spot right now, and that is, sure. How come we have never heard from Bob Lazar's family in regards to this situation to confirm or deny? Because in the public's eye, at least in my eye, he's been hanging in the wind on a rope. There's been no brother. I don't know if he has brothers or sisters, or his parents are still alive, or cousins, or whatever. Not one of them has ever come out to say, leave my cousin alone, leave my brother alone, leave my uncle alone, my son alone, nothing.
Yeah, I mean, Bob doesn't need defending. I mean, I hear what you're saying, but remember, in my film, first of all, it's the first time that you do see his family members. So in my film, his mom talks openly about all of this madness surrounding the UFO topic. And she talks about it. Now, people say, well, why didn't you ask her this or that? What a lost opportunity, Jeremy. You didn't ask her X, Y, or Z. How the hell do they think they know what I asked her? Because I put something in a movie? You think that's the only thing that I asked her? So Bob's mom's whole point was, if Bob wants vindication, he can have vindication. Then he should fight for vindication. If he doesn't, then that's it. Maybe he should just shut up. Maybe it's better people don't believe him. That's exactly like what a mom would say, wouldn't it be? That's in my movie.
Yeah, but 29 years later, that's 29 years of watching your child get throttled publicly. I know if it was my kid that this happened to, I would be all over it, saying, if you got a problem with me, you got a problem with the whole family.
Yeah. Well, look, she stood up for him, and so did Bob's wife, and so did Bob's multiple friends, if you watch the bonus material. But like, how, people will they'll throttle me for saying you're just putting in his family, and they're just all supporting Bob. So I could have made a movie of all of Bob's friends supporting him, because they all do. Not a single one is against him. All his friends say he was telling the truth, and they all play a different role in verifying that. But then I've got a movie where I'm just showing all his friends being like, no, he's telling the truth. But look, in my movie, it's the first time you see his friend Mario. And Mario is the first time he's ever gone on camera. That's why it drives me crazy when people say, oh, it's all stuff we knew. No, it's not. You're lying. No, it's not. You never had Mario on camera. You never had Bob's mom on camera. You never knew about the hand scanners, that they were real. You never, ever knew the stuff that I brought forward about the OFI and Mike Thingpin, the guy that did the security clearances for Bob. No, you didn't. You never knew that. You're lying. So basically, I could make a movie that shows all of these people defending him, but I put Mario, his friend, who went through it with him in the movie. I put his mom in the movie. In the bonus materials, I put Carlos and Amanda, his friends, in the movie. So, yeah, man, look, people got to watch the movie before they start saying crazy stuff.
Well, yeah, but the public doesn't understand. I mean, I covered sports for 10 years. All right, when I worked. And, you know, when you have people talking about athletes, all they say is, you know, here's a guy making $6 million a year to play a game. They don't see the behind the scenes of everything. Right. They only see the 2.5 hours that they're on the diamond, on the gridiron, or on the ice, you know, working their butts off, you know, and maybe having a bad game. They don't understand that there's a family to take care of, that there's stress, there's workouts, there's injuries, and it's much the same as this. So my question, how it leads into this, would you ever release the raw footage of some of these interviews with his mother or his best friend, so that way people could see rather than that footage, rather than just what is in the movie, because they're only getting snippets, and they would be able to hear what you actually asked?
So look, man, if you buy the movie on iTunes right now, you get over 2.5 hours of bonus materials with extended interviews, deleted scenes. So my answer is, yeah. I mean, other than people coming over to my house, grabbing my hard drive and just putting it all online, you know, like, cause remember, I do make movies for a living. I have to like actually sell the movies. If the movies don't sell, I'm not making movies anymore. So, I mean, that's just to be honest with you. So, you know, here's the deal. Watch the damn movie and then buy it on like iTunes or Vimeo, where you get the bonus material. Watch the bonus material that is longer than the movie, right? Absorb that information, and then notice that I'm putting stuff out all the time that is new. So the answer is yes, over time, but do me a favor, watch the movie and watch the bonus materials, and then let's talk about it.
Let's do it. Jeremy, I got time for one more question for you. We only got about 2.5 minutes. Okay. This comes from a good friend of this show, Bob Davis, who is lying in hospital in Edmonton, Alberta.
Oh, and Bob.
He does all the voices of my intros for Spaced Out Radio. He's got the voice of gold. And
yes,
his question,
Bob Davis.
Yes, we love Bob. And he says, I think attempts have been made on Bob's life, but why hasn't he been killed yet? And I'm going to rephrase that just a little bit here. Is he still in fear of his life?
No, I mean, we thought nobody was listening. If you watch my film, it's pretty incredible when he gets raided by the multiple agencies, including the FBI. We were talking right before, and he was just saying, I don't think anybody's listening or cares anymore. So at that time, we thought, no, nobody was listening, nobody cares. Now we realize that's not true. They're listening and they care. Is he afraid for his life? No, I don't think he's afraid for his life. If they wanted to kill him, they would have killed him a long time ago. Clearly, they didn't want to kill him. Now, you can have a bunch of conspiracy theories why they didn't want to kill him. Maybe he's serving a purpose. Maybe they wanted this information out. I don't know. Bob doesn't know. We don't know. Nobody knows, right? But ultimately, no, he's not worried about his life. He's worried about harassment from the general public and then also from, you know, the government itself, for sure. But no, I don't think he's worried about his life. Yeah.
Quickly, one last question for you, my friend. Where can everybody find the Bob Lazar movie?
Yeah, so please do me a favor. Don't just watch it. So go to iTunes and you can buy the film and you get the 2.5 hours of bonus material if you just buy it on iTunes. Bob Lazar, Area 51 and Flying Saucers. It's within the top 5 still. We're going to go back up to 1 in documentary section. You can also get it on Vimeo. You can get it on with the bonus material. You could also get it on Amazon without the bonus material. But watch the movie and then rate and review it. Like, be vocal. Let people know. That's the only way we're going to get more and more people talking about this. So that's the best way. My website is extraordinarybeliefs.com, and you can go there to check that out. And Bob Lazar's website is unitednuclear.com.
Jeremy Corbell, thank you so much for coming on Spaced Out Radio. This is a talk I've waited a couple of years to have. You got to do the Bob Bigelow one, man. That's got to be next.
Okay, I hear you. Maybe it'll be prophetic like our last conversation. Who knows, man? We'll see. I don't know what's next for me. Operation Sleep is next for me. I'm going to get some rest and that kind of thing. I just encourage your listeners, rent the movie, buy the movie, even better, watch it, and let's keep the conversation going because there's a lot to talk about. Thanks, Dave. I appreciate it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jeremy. Olaf Phillips coming up next with the SOR Newswire.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio Live with Dave Scott on the Deep Talk Radio Network.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even resources that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want, when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
Hi there, this is Geraldine Orozco from San Francisco's Bay Area Meditation. I invite you to join me the first Tuesday of every month with Dave Scott for Spaced Out Radio's The Spiritual You. In this fast-paced world we live in, it's time for you to take some time for you. We'll cover every possible subject from powerful meditation to healing techniques to your own intuition and spirituality. So come join us for The Spiritual You.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
We're bringing scientific thought to the paranormal. Hi there. This is Spaced Out Radio scientist Chris Cogswell. Join me, Chris Zuger, and Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month, where we break down the who from the woo when it comes to everything paranormal. We'll investigate and try to bring sensible answers to those straight and sometimes outlandish questions people have. Hey, not everything has an answer, but we'll do our best. Listen in to Reality Paranormal only on Spaced Out Radio.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Did you know Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi there, this is Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm here to take you on a paranormal journey each Saturday and Sunday night. Why change the station when you have it all right here? Together, we'll hang out and share some strange and scary stories. And don't forget, we have Psychic Sundays as well, so come tune in Spaced Out Weekend. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com, where we own the night. Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
You know, it's hard being the bad man of ufology, but that's just the way that I like it. This is Chris George Zuger, and I'll be hanging out with Dave Scott and SOR scientist Chris Cogswell for Reality Paranormal, the second Wednesday of every month. And our job is to break it down and come to conclusions as to what is really going on in the supernatural world. I'd love for you to join us right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. Last part of the show, we always get to the weird, the wacky, the WTF in the SOR Newswire. The news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR Newswire, brought to you by the man, the myth, the paranoia legend, Mr. President of Team Stump, Mr. Olaf Phillips from ParanoiaMagazine.com. Olaf, welcome back to the show.
Greetings and salutations.
How you doing, brother?
Doing all right. How are you?
Good. Just had a really good interview with Jeremy Corbell in regards to the Bob Lazar story. Now, I know you believe Bob Lazar. I'm on record of believing Bob Lazar. What do you think's with all the criticism out there about his story? Because it's rampant.
I think that I think the evidence is there, but I think that a lot of people discount it. And I think that he made some mistakes, and I think it makes him an easy target. It's when you claim something extraordinary, you have to have extraordinary evidence, kind of thing. And I think they look past the man, and I think they look at look, he got a pandering conviction because he installed a security system in a brothel. Okay.
Yes.
He made a poor decision, and he'll tell you that. But I think that compared to some of the people that are on the circuit, so to speak, I think he's got a hell of a lot more credibility. And I think that when he came out, it was a different time, and a lot of people were after him because they didn't want to believe what he was saying, and they just found he was an easy target, and he's not. There's
the
evidence,
fact that
and he has a W-2.
Yeah, and the fact that he really hasn't defended himself. He's just kind of been, it is what it is. That hurts too. And
also, I think that he didn't really, he went public out of self-preservation. He didn't go public to make a name for himself. He didn't want that. He didn't go public to make a lot of money. There's no money in it. He didn't do any of those things. He did it to save himself, if I could use the word. He wanted to save his own ass, and that makes a lot of sense. And I think that hurt him too, because I think a lot of people are looking at him, well, why aren't you cashing in, Bob? Well, because that's not Bob. He kind of wants the whole thing to go away. I think if he had it to do over again, he'd do it differently, because he was much more driven by what he was working on than being a quote-unquote whistleblower.
Changing topics, another big night in ufology was the premiere of Project Blue Book on television. Once again, another popular series on YouTube, or not YouTube, I apologize, on television that many, many people out there, Olav, including yourself and myself, are geeked up about. Why do you think the public is geeked up about watching television shows like this?
I think because it's exciting. It's science fiction. It's maybe they're going to tell us something, or for me, I enjoy seeing the dramatizations of the stories. Project Blue Book isn't the first TV show to go through the Blue Book files. Actually, Project UFO in the late 70s was, and Project UFO is phenomenal. It's a lot of fun to watch. And I think they like seeing the dramatization of these stories, and I think they think they'll learn something new from it.
What's your thoughts after catching the premiere tonight?
I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. I thought they had good actors playing it. They went to a lot of trouble to try to capture the time period. There's a sequence where the one investigator is talking. It's the initial guy's name. But it wasn't Ruppelt. Was it Ruppelt? Well, the guy who would have been, I guess, Ruppelt, was interviewing the pilot, and the pilot's obviously, cracking up from what he saw. And he's like, let's talk pilot to pilot, and all this. And, just... the guy's commitment to moving up the food chain, versus Hynek's commitment to establish a new kind of science. I don't know how accurate that is or isn't, but it's an interesting interplay. So I thought the acting's pretty good, and it's very well made. It's very well made.
One of the things, Olav, that, and I'll ask before we get to the news here, one of the things that I find interesting, and we've talked about timelines so many times on this show, the last year has been filled with ufology. And now we have a show that literally goes into a government black operations that was classified for so many years, told it was never in existence, and now here we are with a television show about it. I mean, that's crazy, dude.
Yeah, it started out as I think Project Sign, and then it was Project Grudge, and then it became Project Sign, and then it became Blue Book, which was open to the public. I think it gives you an interesting insight into the kind of thought process behind it from the Air Force point of view. You know, you've got weird stuff up in the skies, and you know you're tasked with protecting the skies, and you know they were afraid that people would lose credibility, so they wanted to prove it wasn't real. And I think it's very interesting. But you know, I think things come in waves. I've believed for a long time that you gotta go through waves, and we went through a kind of ghost wave, right, where there were 10,000 shows about ghost hunters and Ghost Hunters International and Paranormal State, and we had all these paranormal ghost shows. And then it kind of went down the line of going for the cryptids, and then we had like mountain monsters and all these kinds of things. And I think that now we're going back into the UFO phase, and it'll last a couple of years, and then it'll kind of go back to ghosts, and then go through cryptids and mysteries, and then go back to UFOs. It kind of goes in waves.
Let's get to the news, my friend, because we got a very, very busy thought of the day today.
Oh, I bet. All right. This one I couldn't pass up, and I figured we were going to talk Project Blue Book. By the way, everybody, if you do get a chance, Project Blue Book is fantastic. You should watch it. But also, don't forget Project UFO. You know, that was a great show back in the 70s. It's up on YouTube. And it's pretty cool, too, so definitely check that out. All right, here we go. Security camera catches prowling suspect licking doorbell for 3 hours. A family in Salinas, California, might be ready to deliver a tongue lashing to a prowler their security camera caught licking their doorbell for 3 hours. Sylvia Dungan told local station KION-TV over the weekend the security system alerted the family to strange movement in the early morning. I thought, boy, that's a lot of traffic. I go 5 in the morning. My son doesn't get home until 6 a.m. Well, then, who the heck is it, Dungan said. She was even more shocked when she watched the video of the male trespasser licking the doorbell. I thought, oh boy, that is just weird, Dungan told CBS Sacramento. The tongue-wagging trespasser didn't stop there. Police said he also was caught on video appearing to urinate on the front lawn, according to KION. Police said the suspect, Roberto Arroyo, 33, could face misdemeanor charges for petty theft and prowling, according to CBS Sacramento. As of Tuesday, he remained at large. Dungan said there was no physical damage to her home, but her family spent the rest of the weekend sanitizing the doorbells, according to the station. So he licked her doorbell for 3 hours. You heard that right, 3 hours. That's weird.
That's some serious drugs right there. Serious drugs. Did this happen in Florida? This sounds like it would happen in Florida.
No, it happened in Salinas, down by Monterey.
Sounds like a Florida story, my friend.
It's not a Florida story.
Oh, wow. Let's move on to the next one, my friend. I hate to rush through, but I want to get a few in here.
No problem. Well, I better get to Florida right away then. Obviously, you're jonesing for Florida.
Of course.
Florida man arrested after argument over cheesesteak. A Florida man was arrested on disorderly conduct charge after he got into an argument with the cashier about a cheesesteak sandwich. Joseph Lagana, 27 of Port Richey, was at the Gun Highway Flea Market in Odessa on Sunday when he got into an argument with a cashier about receiving a sesame seed bun on his Philly cheesesteak, according to Pasco County Sheriff's affidavit. A deputy called to defuse the situation said Lagana was being loud and argumentative to patrons at the flea market and appeared to be heavily intoxicated. Lagana was booked in jail on a misdemeanor charge. He was released after posting a $100 bond.
Well, at least they gave him a cheap bond.
On that bun. Yeah, but don't put sesames on that.
Terrible.
That's
terrible.
not good.
It's amazing what can happen. How someone can like start ripping their clothes off, like the Hulk. Let me tell you something, brother. Don't you dare, brother, put sesame seeds on my bun, brother. Like, could you imagine? Could you imagine? I mean, like, that's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
Seriously. Well, he was definitely part of it. I don't know.
All right. Let's move on here, bud.
Giant fatberg measuring 210 feet is clogging up British sewer. London. A British official says a giant fatberg has been found blocking a sewer in southwestern England. A mass of hardened fat, oil, and baby wipes measuring 64 meters, for you, Dave, 210 feet long. Andrew Rowntree of South Wales Water says it will take our sewer team 8 weeks to dissect the monster in exceptionally challenging work conditions. He urged the public not to pour grease down the drain or flush baby wipes down the toilet, adding, "Don't feed the fatberg." The revolting fat mass was discovered in drains in the coastal town of Sidmouth. In 2017, a 250-meter, 820-foot fatberg was found on sewers beneath Whitechapel in East London. A chunk of that latter went on display at the Museum of London, nestled inside of transparent boxes. And they've got photos, and it's disgusting.
That is probably very, very
baby wipes
dirty,
and
man.
fat.
That's terrible.
Baby wipes
That's
and
terrible.
fat. Baby wipes and fat.
On that note, we're getting to the thought of the day before
Baby
I
wipes.
start tasting
Fat.
my food again.
Go for it.
All right. Thought of the Day happens every night at this time, where we post a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, then read your responses on the air. So today's Thought of the Day is as follows. What makes you believe or disbelieve the Bob Lazar Area 51 story? Chris Cogswell, who will be on tomorrow night, stated literally basic chemistry. He would know. Only a doctor in chemical engineering. Michael Huntington, another former guest on this show, he's known to be lying about parts of his story, but this, we got a lot of retraction here. And I want to get into this because John Lear, who was with Bob Lazar when Lazar was caught by Area 51 security. He goes, Michael, Bob is not lying about parts of this story. He cannot prove he has degrees from MIT or Caltech. He says he has, but that does not make him a liar. Since I personally saw and had copies of those degrees when I first met Bob, I can attest to the fact that I saw copies of his degrees. Although he cannot prove his education, he could go one-on-one with any similarly educated physicist, as he did during his interview with scientists from EG&G in his interview for the job at S4. Interesting. We're going to get more of John Lear in this. Keith says he did not provide snacks. That's funny. Another Chris, who will be on tomorrow night, Chris Zuger. He has not provided 1 ounce of evidence for any claim whatsoever in the last 30 years.
Au contraire.
Oh. Michael states there's little evidence to support it, and he has an overabundance of evidence contradicting it. He can't even remember the year he graduated college, yet his memories of this are pristine. He's a liar and a con man. I think that's a little harsh. Stephen, proof, simple as that. There's none. I think there's lots. Sylvia, he tries, and I had a brother-in-law like him. He thought we all believed him, too. Jim. I knew Bob before he went to work at S4. Prior to going there, he was adamant that UFOs were not real and felt the story for John Lear, being from such a world-famous aviation family, that John believed in UFOs. We're going to hear more from Jim as well. Matthew, the alien craft he saw at Area 51 was actually a street light. Oh, Matthew, that's huge. Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
Lighten up the world.
Yes. I don't think there was any sarcasm on that one. Maybe the alien craft he saw at Area 51 was actually a streetlight. Oh, that's funny. Randall, I'm on the fence. Could be of another opinion. Why does Bob still have so much support from the UFO community? What parts of his story, if any, is true? I haven't fully answered these questions myself, and I find this question too loaded. Can anyone here honestly say they 100% support something they've never witnessed before? Cogswell joins in again. He says he is only still believed in the UFO community because his story makes a few lots of money. John Lear pops up again. He says, how much is lots of money, Chris? I've never made any, and I know Bob didn't make any. Jim then starts posting pictures of him and Bob. To the non-believers, Bob Lazar has not made a dime on his UFO reveal. When Jerome told him he would share any monies made, or Jeremy told him that he would share any monies off the documentary, Bob said no. There are a number of posters here that seem to know it all, when in fact you don't know squat. If you have never met Bob or John Lear or George Knapp, then where do you find your so-called facts? Yes, John Lear is unique among all in the flying world and sometimes comes across as unhinged, but he has done things and been places that you could only dream of. And that started the war. That started the war. John Lear then jumped in on that after a bunch of words. You could go on my Facebook and read it for yourself. I'm not going to read it verbatim here. But to Chris and Chris, John once again says, I've known Bob never to lie about anything. I've known him for 30 years. I was one of the few who saw his degrees. Then he follows up saying to Chris Cogswell, our resident scientist, can you tell me the quantity and density of matter is proportional to the force of gravity? The reason I ask is you claim to have 15 years of scientific study, and I would like to have your opinion on what is considered Newton's law of gravitational force. Thank you for your time. Oh, this gets very intriguing. Very intriguing. You got to go on my Facebook page and read this. This is actually kind of cool. We'll move on here. Patrick, he has nothing to gain, but unfortunately a lot of scrutiny. I believe Bob, and with George Knapp breaking the story, all the more reason to put faith in Bob's claims. Jason, want to, but the Element 115 thing tells me, nah, hashtag peak woo. David, too much of it has been corroborated by other whistleblowers with known credentials that it's impossible for him not to have worked there. Lorian gets the final word on this. Never doubted it for 1 second. Knew it was true when he said, I couldn't remember what I did at work. Take that for what it's worth. Where can people find Paranoia Magazine, my friend Olav?
ParanoiaMagazine.com, Paranoia Mag on Instagram, Paranoia Mags on Twitter. The podcast is amazing. We just did a show on 5G. Check it out.
Nice. Very, very nice. Thank you so much for popping in. We will talk to you tomorrow night. Big thank you to Captain Shirk for keeping the SOR Newswire up to date on our website, spacedoutradio.com. You can click on the news tab there. Don't forget to do a little shopping in our brand new Spaced Out Radio store as well. Big thanks to Jeremy Corbell coming on to talk Bob Lazar tonight. Tomorrow night on the program, Chris George Zuger, Chris Cogswell, Reality Paranormal, 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern at spacedoutradio.com. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Big thank you to everyone listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thanks for making this a special show, especially to those in the chat rooms for your questions, your comments, your facial hair. We absolutely love it. And everybody at hashtag Spaced Out Radio, your snark was beautiful. Thanks for doing this with us. We'll do it again tomorrow night, because together, my friends, we own the night. I will talk to you in 21 hours from now. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Good night.